Hello and welcome back to Riding the Pine, Blackhawks fans. This is our review of Game 11 of the 2020-21 Chicago Blackhawks season. Tonight, the Blackhawks fell 4-3 to the Carolina Hurricanes in a shootout, and their record fell to 3-4-4 on the season. But before we get to the review, please do me a really big favor and hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps us out a lot. And please comment down below as well. We want to hear your thoughts on the game, hear your thoughts on the season, whether that be as the team in general or on specific players. And also, shout out to all of our listeners. This past Monday was the largest day and best day for us on the channel. We literally doubled the amount of listening time on the show, which was fantastic. We're getting new subscribers. It's great to see that growth. We just got to get more of you and more of you interacting with us on the channel. So thanks for everybody who's been checking in. And tonight I'm joined as usual by Chai sports fan Joe. Joe, how are you doing?
Hey, Kyle. Yeah, another probably one of the better games we've seen the Hawks play so far. 11 games in, but yeah, just kind of struggling to get over that last hump, I guess, to get the 2 points versus the one in the extra time.
Yeah, no, I thought the second period specifically was the best period they've had all season. I know they didn't score, but just as an all-around period, I know some people were saying it was boring, but that's kind of the point. You're playing one of the best defensive teams in the league tonight, and that was a really good showing, I thought, defensively and offensively. I actually thought they had Carolina on the ropes in that second period. If they could have gotten the lead, I think this is a completely different game. I just this is something I was talking to Sherrod in DMs on Twitter during the game tonight, and it's just something that's noticeable. I think with this year's team, and it's just with the youth. This team seems like it's 2 steps faster and quicker than it was last season, and also there just seems to be more heart to the team. Like they're actually trying and playing aside from like the first 8 minutes of the game tonight, which they came out completely flat. But
Right.
you can see that they're wanting to kind of really develop and play and win versus having a bunch of veterans just kind of collecting paychecks.
Yeah, and then I know they said, too, reiterating, the Hurricanes are, one of the top, I think, puck possession teams in the league, if not the top. But they're also one of the best at preventing shots. I mean, they gave up, I think, an average of 23 shots per game heading into today, which ranked second. But it was a different story against us. So, because they only recorded 15 shots on goal in the first period, along and finished with 33 total. So 30 in regulation. But so we kind of played them pretty well. I thought that's why I said, even though the second period was boring, we made the adjustments and kind of matched them toe to toe.
Yeah, when I think that's a when you're playing a team of this caliber, and I think Carolina I think is where the Hawks roster as currently constructed would be 2 years from now, where I think both teams lack that uh, dynamite offensive player. I think we're seeing Svechnikov turn into that, but this is only, I believe, his third season. Um, but like he took over the game tonight. I mean, he was the difference. He scored the opening goal and he scored in the shootout. So props to him. Um, but yeah, I think these teams in a lot of ways are similar. Um, I thought the only negatives really tonight were Nikita Zadorov and Calvin DeHaan. I thought both of them, then they're becoming a theme, I think, at least in recent
Yeah,
games and really
more
throughout the first
liabilities versus
11.
assets at this point.
Yeah, they're when you're veteran, and it's hard to call Zadorov a veteran, and it's not even Like, I feel like I'm not even being fair to him because I think the Hawks and management has put him in a untenable situation. He obviously wants to play top 4 minutes, but he's not a top 4 defenseman. Like, if Colorado's playing you as a third pair, you're probably a third pair. That's one of the Stanley Cup contenders last year and this year. So that's probably what you are. Just because the Hawks aren't as deep, let's say, uh, across the board as Colorado is, and you're getting more minutes, that doesn't necessarily mean they were underplaying you. You're just on a team that's not as good.
Right. And I see Zadorov as more of just, he's a guy that's going to, in the defensive zone, in the corners, he'll win puck battles because he's big bodied. And, in front of the net, he could be a nuisance to the opposition. But other than that, I don't really see him, obviously he's not going to be, a quarterback on your power play. He's not going to, be an offensive minded defenseman. I feel like that's the only reason the Hawks got him was to maybe just, win the battles in the corners to try to gain possession of the puck to be able to exit our zone and just be a nuisance and a net front nuisance kind of to put it in that kind of retrospect to, get the opposition away from our goaltender. And like I said, gain possession of the puck and give our offense a chance to break out of the zone.
Well, and I think he adds, based off statistics tonight, and just on the season, he adds that physicality that they really don't have.
Right.
Hagel's been bringing a little bit of it, and Reese Johnson did the other night. And I'm a little disappointed Johnson didn't play tonight, to be honest with you.
Yeah, same. I mean, because I thought he had a really good game 2 nights ago too.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen him get another shot and Highmore sit. Um, but whatever. Zadorov had 8 hits tonight. That's a shit ton.
Yeah.
I believe he's second in the league in hits. So that's definitely something that's nice about his game. Um, and like again, it's not that I don't like him. I just don't think he should be playing 20 minutes a game.
Right. Right.
And Dahan is more troubling because Dahan is supposed to be a top 4 defenseman. And while he had 4 block shots tonight and 3 shots on goal, he also had a giveaway and he's constantly getting caught flat-footed. In fact, on the third Carolina goal, I don't recall who scored that. Was that Trocheck? Yes.
Yeah, I think it was Trocheck. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was Murphy and Dahan, and Murphy was blocking a shot, I believe. And then there was a deflection off Murphy and it went to Trocheck. Well, Dahan was floating towards the play, watching the play, which is how Trocheck was left right with a gaping net to get the rebound off the deflection and put the puck in the net. And when your veteran defenseman is doing that and ending up in no man's land, that's a problem. And it's like, it's not just that. It'd be one thing if it was like he had one goof every 10 games or something, which even that's for a top 4 probably is too much. But let's just say it was once every 10 games. This is like, once a game, twice a game. And he looks like Michael Roosevelt post ankle break after 2015 or post 2014, even when the age and the miles had caught up to him. And he just couldn't play at a top 4 level anymore. That's kind of what I'm seeing. And maybe it's just a rough patch. Maybe I'm being too hard on him.
And I know that one was a little bit of a puck luck kind of bounce too. I mean, I know it deflected off Murphy and bang, it came right to Trocheck in front. And, and not to say, and I know Strome was in the neighborhood too, and he was kind of puck watching as well. But yeah, I mean, that's more on the defenseman than it is on Strome.
Yeah, well, I don't know. When you have so many young players on defense that are, and it's interesting because I mentioned before we started recording that to me Ian Mitchell while he only played 14 minutes tonight, was the most noticeable on defense.
Right.
His
Agreed.
skating ability, I don't know how many cuts he was able to make to avoid checks and shake off checks. If he gets, they even mentioned it on the broadcast, I think, if he gets stronger and his timing improves, he's going to be one hell of a player. Um, and, when you got Connor Murphy, who's playing really well, and thankfully, this is really knock on wood, the first season where he hasn't had any injury trouble since he's come over to Chicago. Duncan Keith played fairly well tonight, which is good to see. He's always going to be, in your top four as long as he's around, I assume. Um, you're just missing that Dahan kind of mental lapses and getting caught slow-footed. If Bodan played 20 minutes tonight,
That's
including
crazy.
and with his third game of the season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he played, I don't know, 40 seconds maybe in overtime. I don't have that in front of me, but he did play 1:30 on the power play, which was good to see. So I'm happy they played him. He did have 3 giveaways, but again, third game of the season, and
Right. He's gonna make
like
mistakes.
he's
So
like 20 years old.
right.
So
But yeah, you look at Kurashev's 21, Suter's 24, Kubalik's 25, and we're sitting at 3, 4, and 4 right now in 11 games. I mean, so what is that? 10, that's 10 points in 11 games for a group this young and still developing.
yeah, without your captain and your top young star.
I mean, that's a win. That's I think that's more where I think they've exceeded expectations at this point. I don't think we expected them, through 11 games to have 10 points, but I know it's like, yeah, again, talking about moral victories, but you know,
Well, no, I mean, I knew they were, like I said, I think they're about a year ahead of where I thought they'd be. Because, like I said, I was looking at the next 2 drafts. And, I don't, I've routinely, especially not just this season, but over the last couple, been hammering and yammering on and on about they need that elite scorer. I'm not even talking about like an elite player or an elite playmaker, just somebody that routinely scores, like Alex Ovechkin. Now, not everybody's Alex Ovechkin, but you get my point. He's
right,
not. He rarely gets an assist. What he does is put the puck in the net. And that's the kind of dangerous weapon that this team just doesn't have right now. And I don't think it changed. Taves and Doc, I don't think changed that. I think, sure, adding Doc and Taves back to this team, you've probably got an extra 2 victories. But if you had them plus a scorer, you're going to, I mean, you're a cup contender right now. I
right.
mean, you've
Yeah,
got,
that's why I said, we've left, now, like we were talking before we started recording, we've left 4 points on the table. I mean, we're sitting at 10. Even if we win, 2 of those games, we're sitting at 12 points and we're right at near the top or at the top of the division. So, you know,
right. Well,
it's
and
crazy.
I I just think we have the goaltending. The goaltending, there's no question anymore that Kevin Lankinen is the starter, and he's
Right.
going to be, barring some major colossal fuck up by Bowman, he's going to be the goalie for the foreseeable future. Who the backup is, they can figure that out as they go. But you've got your starter. Lankinen tonight, 38 saves on 41 shots, 927 save percentage again, basically at that 930 spot. These are Vezina type numbers. I mean, these are
Right.
just ridiculous.
Right. So
Um,
I mean, yeah, he's playing out of his mind, and and again, I mean, he kept us in the game. I mean, especially when Carolina had those rushes tonight. I mean, he made some pretty top notch A plus saves to keep us close as always, or keep the game tied.
Yeah, and I know, like I said, I was hard on the defense to start with my negatives, but I think, like, I want to point out the defense is not a problem. Like, I know all the fans always bitch, and or at least for the last several years, it's the defense, the defense. It's not. You've got the prospects. You've already got, like I said, between Keith Murphy and Mitchell, you've got your top three. So you've got Boquist, you've got Bodan, you've got Regula, you've got Kalina, and you got Vlasic. And that's not even counting anybody that they drafted. They drafted several in this past draft on defense. So like defense is not an issue with this team. All you need is your defense to develop and get experience because it's all young players. But like you've got the talent there. You don't need to go and add more on defense. And you know what? Vlasic might be the end of Zadorov because I believe Vlasic is 6'6". So, maybe you keep Zadorov around until Vlasic's ready to go. But I have no qualms whatsoever on the future of the defense. I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because now we have really one more game Thursday, which is the 4th, and then Rockford opens their season the next day, the 5th. So I don't know if Colleton's going to adjust the lineup to you know think that, all right, well, here's the guys who we want playing for Rockford for their opener, and who we want playing up for us. I would maybe think there's going to be some lineup changes for the game Thursday, but I guess that remains to be seen.
well, you know what's just weird about that? So when I went on my Kalanick rant the other night, which by the way, thank you for humoring, um, I just like a lot of the excuses that people were making to me ab- about why they haven't sent him to Rockford was, well, they want him, like one of them was, well, they want him to get an NHL salary. It's like, why? Like that makes no sense. He's making league minimum. I mean, I know he's got some performance bonuses, but if he's not playing in the NHL, he's not going to hit those. So he's basically at league minimum, and it's been a month into the season. Plus, because of the shortened season and COVID protocols and all of that crap, they've, the what do you call it? The oh god, contract term, escrow. Escrow is like 40% or something this year. So like literally almost half of that contract that he would get in the NHL, he's not going to get because it's going into escrow. I mean, he might get it later depending on what revenues are, but he's not going to get it up front like he would in a normal season. So, and if you're Kalanick, for by the time you count taxes and all of that shit and living expenses that he's got to have in Chicago, you're talking like maybe $35,000. Like to me, whether you're Kalanick or you're the Blackhawks, you want, or anybody else that's on the roster right now, I'm just using him as an example. If they're not in your plans to play like now in recent games coming up here, why are they here? It's
Right.
going to take them time to learn the system in Rockford and figure out where they're going to play. Whether it's, who your defensive partner is, who your line mates are, getting to know the coaching staff, all of that stuff, adjusting to being in Rockford. Like it's obviously a big jump, in Rockford than living in Rockford than in Chicago. So, just things like that you want. And he's 23 years old. Like somebody said, well, would it benefit these young players to be around the NHL players? And I didn't even bring this up, but what NHL players? Other than Duncan Keith and Patrick Kane, most of the guys on the team have 1 or 2 years of experience. Like, I don't, maybe, I guess, for like a 19 or 20-year-old who's, got time to develop. but that's the thing, like with Kalanick and a Johnson or any of these guys, like they're 23 years old. Like that they should be at, like, that's the age. If you're going to be in the NHL, usually if you're not in it by 23, 24, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Unless you're a goaltender. Like Lankinen's 25, goaltenders are usually later, but defensemen are usually, if they're out of Canadian juniors, they spend a year or two down in the minors in the AHL, and then they come up when they're about 21, 22. Kalanick, for example, Mitchell, for example, they're already 22 and 23 when they're coming into the organization. So those 3 years that Bodan, Boquist get, they don't have, because they were doing that in college. They went to a junior and a senior year. So I just don't understand, if they're going to send people back down to Rockford, why they didn't do it like last week, because training camp's been going on down there for at least a week. So I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, that's why I said it'll be interesting to see what lineup changes they make, because if you see guys that probably are normally, are playing, and then that, if Colleton decides, well, they'll be better suited in Rockford, then you're probably not going to see them in the lineup on Thursday.
No, yeah, I don't think, I would be stunned if Kalanick is not sent to Rockford. I guess I'm just arguing that it should have been done a lot sooner,
Yeah.
because, and you've got Lucas Carlson, right, who came out of the lineup tonight for Bodan. And I assume and hope Boquist will be back relatively soon.
And then does Bodan, you think, go to Rockford?
No, well, maybe, but I don't know, because he's young enough that maybe they, like I said, I wish almost that they would sit either well, I guess it would be Zadorov, for a game, and get these younger kids in there and get their ice time bumped up. Like, because to me, Mitchell playing 14 minutes, just under 14 minutes tonight, is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Granted, I sure as hell didn't expect Bodan to play 20, but and this is a game that went into overtime, and you know, the way Mitchell was skating and stuff tonight, maybe if he played a little bit more, maybe he creates that offense. I don't know, but you want them to develop. So I don't know. I want to see them play more, the Bodans, and if Carlson is a part of your future, I don't really think he is, but if he is, then I want to see him play and develop. And Boquist, same thing. I actually, you know what? I could see Boquist being sent down, because I think
to get him more time, and
to get him to top 4 minutes, because I don't think, especially now that he's missed 10 plus days, he's been out, and just to get him back up to game shape and game speed, and then to get him those minutes, I could see him being sent down, and then Bodan and Carlson kind of alternating in and out of the lineup until they want to give Boquist a call up. I think that's something that I actually would probably do. That I think I'd prefer it that way, considering how Boquist started the season. But it's enough on the defense, I guess. Let's get into the forwards. I thought Kurashev was good again tonight. Another goal, power play goal. Power play continues to click. That's a great sign.
Yeah, that's what I said. The second unit, really did well tonight. I think they cashed on their opportunity.
Yeah, Debrincat had 2 assists tonight, and I know I've been dogging Kubalik for just getting assists, but I think it's different for Debrincat tonight because it's his first game back from COVID. He also had 22 minutes of ice time.
Yeah, he didn't show too many signs of being rusty.
No, and I thought he had a couple nice looks too that could have been goals. I think Well, there was that one play where Debrincat was waiting in the circle, and Strome was waiting for Kubalik because I don't know what Kubalik was doing, but it took him like 5 seconds to catch up to the play. And Strome passed it to Kubalik. Kubalik got a shot off dead on, and then it careened off the goalie's pads with a rebound to Debrincat, and then Debrincat missed it. But so that was a nice opportunity. I thought Debrincat was noticeable, so that's good. That's why I'm giving him a shout out. And again, the reason, just so people understand that I'm hard on Kubalik, is one, the media make him out to be something he's not, and two, he's a 30 goal scorer. That's what everyone said. And here we are again. I said it the other night. This is another game. We're 11 games into the season now. He's scored in one game. That's just, again, when you're struggling to score, that sticks out like a sore thumb. And both of his assists tonight were secondaries. I think originally they gave him originally on Kurashev's power play goal, they gave him the first assist, but it was a secondary because
because I think it was
Suter.
Kubalik to
Suter.
Suter to Kurashev, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he was the secondary on the Strome goal. But
and then another thing, like I thought that we need to kind of improve on is the defensive kind of passes to our wingers breaking out of the zone, because I don't know how many there were tonight.
Yeah, in the middle of the ice.
Just where they the passes are so errant, and it leads to unnecessary icings. And I know the one toward even the end of the game, where Zadorov, I think, had a perfectly clean opportunity to hit the winger. I forget who it was, but he missed them terribly, and it was led to an icing and an offensive zone sequence for the Hurricanes. That I mean, granted they didn't capitalize, so it's not a big deal. But late in especially having it be late in the third period, you can't do that. And you're tired as it is. So I just think that's something we need to work on a little bit.
Well, that final, what was it like? It was, I think there's like 4 minutes left in the third.
Yeah, it was basically in our zone, our defensive zone the whole time.
Well, yeah. Well, so they got caught in a line change, and then Lankinen made a huge stop. I think, was it Zadorov got danced around, and then I think they got caught in the line change after that. It was like a 3-on-1, and like it was just, I think Colleton even mentioned it was like 40 seconds of hell, and it was a miracle that they didn't get scored on.
Right. Right.
But there were, like, I guess what I thought where you were going with that is, in the first period and the second period, even though I thought the second period was great, there were passes from behind their own net or along the boards as they were trying to move and push the puck out into the neutral zone that were going across the center of the ice, which is just, I mean, you don't do that. Like, you don't throw I don't care if there's even if there isn't a hurricane in the zone, I don't care. You still don't throw the puck into the middle of the ice in your own zone. You just don't do that. And numerous times tonight, they made that blunder, and they've done it in several other games. And again, I don't want to shit on it too much because, again, they're going to make those mistakes. Heat of the moment, you make stupid mistakes, especially as a young player. But that's something that's got to get cleaned up, because if you make that mistake against a team that has a little bit more offensive,
right, like a team like the Lightning or
Vegas or somebody that's got more skill up front, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But honestly, for a team like the Hurricanes, that's one of the best defensive teams in the league, that we were able to pretty much stick with them, especially after that horrendous first, let's just say 10 minutes of the game. It was probably less than that, but just for sake of argument. I, and then it was so huge too, that Kane goal was 17 seconds.
Yeah, to tie the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was huge. And I mean, seriously, if they would have scored in the second period, I think they probably win this game. I mean, they were all over them at times. Like, I thought the Blackhawks, like you had mentioned, the puck possession of Carolina. I thought in that second period, even though they had nothing to show for it, I thought the Blackhawks were dictating play for the most part. I thought they had puck possession. There was that one shift with Hagel, Camp, and was it Suter? I guess now that he's been demoted to the fourth line for reasons. Um, have they said why they've put him there? I
Yeah, I'm
don't.
kind of curious on that too. I don't know if it's just to kind of add a scoring dimension to the fourth line, but I mean, obviously, you don't depend on your fourth line to score goals. They're out there to kind of, you know, be it, get the, not to say, how do I put it, to gain offensive abilities, but also prevent the other team from scoring. I mean, but I don't know. I'm trying to see where there was a stat here that I thought I saw. What is it? If it was, I'll have to come back to it. But I mean, I think it's two. The keys. The Blackhawks once again, chasing the game. I mean, I know we've talked about that in the past too. Now they're 0-4-3 when the opposition scores first, but the Hurricanes, I mean, dang, when they score first, they're undefeated. They're now 6-0. But
Yeah, but I think that talks. I mean, the Hawks, I think, have a similar record, right? They haven't lost in regulation at least.
yeah,
Um, but I think that speaks to a team that's defensively tight and sound, like they are, which I think we're starting to see with Chicago. I think the defense too at the forward level, which was a big thing, that was very evident, I think, in the playoffs against Vegas, and they talked about it. And I think that's an area that's definitely been better with your two-way play from your forwards. Um, but I think, like I said, uh, I don't have anything really negative other than those two veterans, even though I don't really think Zadorov is necessarily a veteran. Just them on defense. Otherwise, I thought this was a great game. I thought, um, for the Blackhawks, it's moral victories, right? Like, if you had a healthy roster and you're like legitimately you're one player away.
right.
So I don't like
Do you
if you're
think they have to change anything? That's what I was going to say for these. Like, I feel like in the overtime, especially I mean, we've been in two overtimes or four overtimes, I should say, but two have gone to the shootout, two have ended in overtime. Do you think they have to try? I mean, I don't know what more you could do in overtime, but I feel like they're just not. They're not getting great opportunities, grade A scoring chances to put the puck in the net in overtime. Like tonight, I mean, Kane had a good chance. There's Debrincat had a good chance, but they weren't like they're not able to go out on a 2-on-1 or to force a 3-on-1 or an odd man rush, whereas other teams are. And granted, they're preventing them from scoring, it seems like, but it's like the game against Nashville. I mean, Yossi goes right around whoever it was and scores. And like I feel like we don't have that, like you were talking about, that score to just take the game and go to the net and crash the net and get a goal.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. So I mean, you have Patrick Kane, but Kane can't play the full 5 minutes, right? And not
Right.
only that, but when you're in a tie game and you're probably throwing Kane out there the final 10 minutes, he's probably playing 6.5 to 7 of those 10 minutes. When you do that, he's winded, so he's not going to be at 100%. Um, So I think they're taking a more defensive aspected game plan to it, I guess.
And
Just
then
to
do you
get,
like this, like where they're starting, like, okay, like this Camp and Kane, like, okay, well, if Camp wins it, he gets off the ice. If he loses it, Kane gets off the ice. Is it, do you like that where they're just, playing it kind of on the fly, so to speak, whereas you're not having a specific line stay out there regardless of if whether you win or lose the draw?
yes and no. I think I, it's 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 hard to say. I have to look at the tape and watch it more closely to see. So, like, hypothetically, if you lose the draw and you want Kane to get off for another defender, how long, like, because if it's a clean win for the other team at the face-off, I, you're losing. Especially like I mean, it would depend too. Are you home or are you on the road? Who like
Right.
where's the bench at? Right. So
Yeah.
like, how far do you have to go to get off the ice, and how much time does that take? And how far, like if it's a clean win by the other team, how close are they, or how far down the ice are they towards your own net? I think that's a lot of ifs, and I guess I don't really have a problem with it, to be honest. I mean, however they want to do it, um, as long as the kids are getting their time out there and getting to experience it, I don't really care.
And then
Um,
in the shootout, it was like, they each, Debrincat, Kane, and Strom kind of all did the same exact thing. Like now you would think after, okay, one guy goes or two guys go, the second or the third guy would say, all right, let me try something different because, this isn't working. Because I mean, we've been in two shootouts this year. Have we scored in any of them?
I don't think so.
So which is, to be 0 for 6 now. But I mean, I know it's a small sample size, but I mean,
Well,
that's alarming.
I know Strom talked after the game that he said that he just outthunk himself. Like he said he was going to do 4 or 5 different things. Well, it takes like 3 seconds to get from center ice into the zone,
Right.
right, to where you're starting to make a move. So if you're in that 3 seconds, if you're thinking about 4 or 5 different things, as he said he was doing, you're probably not going to pull it off. Patrick Kane trying to do too much. Like
Right. And I know he tries to slow down and do all those stick handling moves to try to, I mean, at the end, in essence, you're trying to get the goaltender to make the first move. And credit to Reimer, he never made the first move.
well, I
But
think with Kane, I think he's slowing down too much. I think that's his problem. Like he's got a quick wrist shot.
right,
So
that's what I say. I said try to let one, instead of Kane always he seems to slow down and then try to go to the forehand to the backhand. Well, instead of doing that, yeah, let one rip, throw a wrister on him, make him think that you're gonna maybe slow down, but then just let a wrister go.
well, it's not even necessarily slowing down. You can slow down, but it's like Mighty Ducks. He tries to like triple deke the guy out of his jock strap or something down there. And it's like, dude, you don't need to do that. Make
Right.
1 or 2 moves and then just blast one off.
Yeah,
Whether
exactly. So
5 hole, glove side, stick side, wherever you're going. I mean, you're Patrick Kane, but
right.
I tonight, obviously, I mean, they said it on the broadcast. He didn't even shoot the puck till he was in the fucking crease.
Yeah, right.
It's
Right.
a miracle Reimer let him get that far.
Yeah, exactly. Without, yeah, and that's why I'm surprised. Especially these goaltenders, if they see these guys getting so deep into the crease like that, that they just try to poke check the puck away. But maybe you're just afraid you're going to miss it, and then
Yeah, well, with Kane, you might be, but I mean,
yeah,
Kane literally put it right into his glove. I mean,
right,
he
right.
was so, yeah, but um, I am glad Strome got a shot because I think he did not have one against Nashville, but yeah, I don't have a, I mean, and then to brink it, I mean, Kubalik has basically a slap shot. I mean, he doesn't really have much else to do other than that.
And you know who and then like when Kubalik has a slap shot, but it was like who used to do that in the shootout too? Wasn't it Marian Hossa?
Osa, yeah.
Yeah. It's like then use it. I mean, I used to like when I remember the one game I think I went to when Hossa was on Detroit at the time. I was at the game and it was we went to a shootout and Hossa and I used to hate it because I was like, oh my god, that's like such the cheapest freaking way to score a goal is to take a slap shot, go from really within 10 feet of the goaltender. Like, yeah, you're going to score like probably 90% of the time. And I'm like, such a cheap way to get a goal. But when he was on the Hawks and he did it, it was like, I love this. It's such a great way to score. So I feel like, Kubalik with that shot, if he gets a shootout attempt again, that's something he should try.
Yeah, well, I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure he did in Nashville. And I don't remember if he did it like a snapshot or if it was a wrist shot. I don't think it was a straight slap shot, but I
Okay.
think he did something because I think he went along the boards and then it was either a quick snap or a quick wrist shot. I don't recall. And I'm pretty sure that it was him, but it's been so long now it's hard to remember. But um I mean that is what it is, and it's just
Yeah. So,
like I mean, hell, at this point, throw Bodan out there. I mean, shit, what do you have to lose? Why not Kurashev? I mean,
yeah. Or Highmore even too.
yeah, I mean, we haven't seen any of these guys. Maybe they're great, shootout scorers. I don't know.
I mean,
But
do you think? And I'm curious as to why and I know with Taves being out, kind of screws with the whole shootout lineup mentality. But is Kane just so used to going second? Is that why he continues to go second? Because like I feel like you gotta, at least in my opinion, if you want to get the lead and score, I feel like Kane should be going first. But then I get the other reasoning because after Kane, who do you really have to depend on to get you the game winning or the game tying goal?
yeah, I think it's like the sweet spot, if you will. Like, so either you're down a goal and you need to tie it, or they miss and it's scoreless and you can score, and then they have to score again on their third shot, if assuming they've shot first. um yeah, I would just assume it's kind of like the happy sweet spot for him. Either he's the guy that you send out there to tie it, or he's the guy to kind of win it, if you will. If you're up one, or if it's scoreless and you put the
Yeah.
pressure on them, kind of deal. But
Well,
I don't know. Like, again, this game's probably different in the shootout if you have Doc or Taves or just any. I mean, Taves is one of the best shootout scorers ever.
yeah. I mean, I think he's 49.5% or 50% for his career. I mean, yeah, that's
Yeah. So
incredible. So
he probably he probably win at least one of those games then if he's on the roster. But like, I just think for me, it's just looking at this team and it's like they've got the bottom six and the top nine depth now. That's what Kurashev is. He's playing top 6 minutes, but he's probably a top nine forward. He's not a top six guy. Obviously, like we've said, you bring Taves and Doc back, Kurashev's going to drop in the lineup.
right.
They just need that one guy that can take the game over, and you're going to need that guy anyway because Kane is going to get older and he's not going to be able to do this much longer at this level. So, and I'm not saying he's going to get horrible. Like, he's just going to go from that 80 to 70 point player to like 50 points a year kind of player. And so you're going to need that new Patrick Kane basically to kind of go with the new Jonathan Taves, which is Kirby Doc. And obviously they can kind of ride off into the sunset on the new cores back, if you will. But And I just don't know where you get that guy. I mean, we were talking before you came on. I was looking through forwards at the draft, and like this, man, it really hurt. I think it's a lot of fans were happy they beat Edmonton, but not being higher in that draft last year.
Right. It was a catch-22. It was like, do we want them to win? Of course we do. But if they beat Edmonton, then they lose their a pretty prime draft position. And but it's like, hey, we're in the qualifiers. We want to win, but yeah, I mean, I know there was obviously a lot of talk to know, like, yeah, all right, hey, well, even if we beat Edmonton, we got to go up against Vegas, and we all knew there. The only reason we won the one game, I mean, was Crawford basically stood on his head, but other than that, yeah, I think we knew we were going to be lucky if we won one, maybe two games in that series, which we only did win one. So,
I mean, it was I think that's not right, is it? I'm looking at like Trevor Zegras. Was he drafted in this year's draft? I think he was.
yeah, I think he was. I think he went.
It
Was he
says
seventh, or when did he go?
he went ninth, but it
Ninth.
says 2019 NHL draft. So no, that was Kirby Doc's draft year. So never mind.
Yeah,
But like I'm just saying, like whether it have been Holtz or Rossi, or granted Rossi's kind of out with COVID, but the forward depth in this upcoming draft is just not good. Like there are there's probably two forwards, two centers at University of Michigan that are interesting. There's another guy that's a Notre Dame commit that's interesting. And then there's a Canadian guy and a Finnish, no, not Finnish, Swedish guy who's really fallen in the draft. But, if you like, this is the draft for defense, like Luke Hughes, Owen Power, and those are like just two of the top. Like, there's half of the top 10's defense, which like never happens. Like the first two picks this year might be defenders, and that hasn't happened in like 20 years, something like that. So I don't know. I was looking at free agents in the next, whether it's this offseason or next offseason. And like the best two guys, Ovechkin's a free agent, but let's be real, they're not signing Ovechkin.
no.
It's Taylor Hall and Landeskog, and I don't see Landeskog leaving Colorado. And do you want to give a 30-year-old Taylor Hall a long-term deal?
No.
I mean, well, look at it this way, right? So, like I've said it the last couple of years, this team reminds me a lot of like that 2008 Hawks team that lost to Detroit in the conference final, where all the kids had come up and they were just kind of like one piece away, right? And then they went out and they got Marian Hossa, and that's what put them over. Like, I feel like that's where we are again. Granted, the defense isn't as developed as it was then, but we're kind of in a similar spot, I think.
It'll just be curious to see. I mean, I am curious because if if we keep playing the way we're playing and Lincoln keeps playing the way he's playing, I'm just throwing out the best case scenarios, and we come to the midway point of the season, or maybe even a little bit further than that, and we're still in contention for that fourth spot in the division, to where we can conceivably have a chance at the playoffs. What do you think they do, the Blackhawks, like what Bowman does? I mean, if Taves still isn't back, if I mean, obviously, if Doc's still not back, do you use the money that that freed up the space for them being on long-term injured reserve to try to bring somebody in to make some kind of a playoff run, or do you stand pat?
Well, I think the question invariably is one, I think you only make a move if it's a long-term player. So, like, for example, say Taylor Hall is available because Buffalo is shitting the bed again, which is what they're doing right now. He's on a 1-year contract. So if you can lock him up and you know you've got the money to, and I don't know if they do because we don't know what he'll want, but I would think you would definitely make that a term of your trade that you'd negotiate a new contract before acquiring him.
Mm-hmm.
But, theoretically, you've got Sod's 1 mil coming off. You've got Smith's 3.2. So that's about $4 million. Soderberg's $1 million. So that's 5. Maybe you throw a Dahan in there as part of that trade to shed cap, because that may be part of it too. And then it works, right? Because you've got that like $10 million available to give him on a contract extension. But unless it's something like that, like Mike Hoffman would have been fantastic for the Blackhawks. And he waited until training camp to sign with the Blues, but he's a 30-goal scorer. That guy would have been, granted, 30 years old, but he would have been a perfect, and he's not going to, like Taylor Hall, he's not going to cost 10 million, and he's like 6, 7, 8 million.
Yeah, I think the Blues signed him I think they signed him a 1 year. Was it 7 million or 6 million?
Yeah, so I mean, he'll be available again, but he's going to be a year older.
Right.
So I don't know if I probably wouldn't play with that too much. I think Hossa was 29 when we signed him.
Yeah.
28 or 29.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I wouldn't I don't think you're acquiring defense because I think you want your kids playing. So it would have to be a forward. And if it's not, they're not, I don't think you trade for a rental.
No. I just didn't know if, with, like you said, if you have the cap space now to use, with Taves being, Taves and Doc both being on long-term injured reserve, to have to try to use their money now while you can. But if there's but everything has to kind of line up. I mean, Lord knows, we're only 11 games in. We still have 45 games left. I'm just saying, conceivably, if we are in a position to where we can make the playoffs, then you try to maybe do something if you feel like you need to. But if you don't, and you feel like regardless, if Bowman feels like, hey, regardless, okay, we make the playoffs, great. We know we're not going to go very far. So just hold on to everything and keep the status quo and just see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think there's another guy in Buff. Yeah, Reinhardt. I think, is that who I'm thinking of? Yeah, I think I might dabble with him because I'm trying to think of, like teams that might sell that are
Well,
gonna.
I'm sure Detroit will.
Yeah, but they don't have anything.
Yeah.
What's
Nashville may.
Yeah, but they don't really have anything either.
I'm just thinking of teams in our division, but
How old is Skinner? 28.
Ottawa probably will. I don't know if they have anything.
They have Dadnanov, but again, he's like 33, I think, 32. So you probably want to stay away from that.
I'm sure the Kings will. I'm sure the Ducks will. I don't know. The Sharks probably will.
Sam Reinhart with Buffalo is interesting. So he's a center and he's 25 years old and he's on a 1-year deal. So he's going to get a raise, but
do you feel like our center depth is pretty much?
Well, he also plays right wing, so I mean,
Okay.
he can do both.
Yeah.
And he is a restricted free agent. So that's interesting.
So Buffalo could match if they want to.
Well, no, I'm saying you would trade for him.
Yeah.
Taylor Hall is obviously we've talked about. He's making $8 million.
It'll be interesting. That's why I said I who knows, and especially with not having fans and not having really any kind of fan revenue, concession revenue, and it's you wonder if this is going to be like like all the rest of more so baseball, where just teams are players are signing just 1-year deals, and then because owners don't want to spend a lot of money when they're not really making any money.
What's Vancouver doing?
I don't know.
I know they struggled when they started, but
I mean, they're 6-7 right now. They've lost 2 in a row, but I mean, I expect them to be content. I mean, not to be cup contenders, but I think they'll make the playoffs.
JT Miller would be interesting. And he's in Vancouver. He's a guy they might be willing to move. He's 27, 5.25 mil. They're in cap hell, and they need to re-sign Pedersen, Hughes, and Demko. I know they were. Holtby was not playing well to start the season.
Do the Oilers sell? That's a tough one too.
They could, depending on where they are.
Yeah.
I know Nugent Hopkins is a free agent at the end of the year, but again, he's a center, and you don't really need that. I don't think he signs during the season. What else do they have? James Neal, too old. You want to get Dominik Kahun back? Yeah, I don't think they're the only thing they have really is Hopkins, and that doesn't interest me that much.
So, it'll be interesting to see, like I said, when it comes to that point, if the Hawks are playoff contenders, what they do, and if they aren't, which a lot of people expect them not to be, who they sell and what they get in return.
Honestly, if they can get, like I said, if they can get a Reinhardt, or they can get like a JT Miller, or they can get somebody who's preferably under 30 that's a long-term piece, I would trade my first-round pick this year for him, I think, because you're going to have the cap space. It seems to me like you're one player away. And I say that assuming Taves is coming back, because if Taves is not coming back, that changes things.
Well, right, that changes everything.
And by coming back, I don't mean just this season. I mean,
right, for his career.
Yes, like if he's done, that changes things.
Right.
But yeah, I would definitely be willing to maybe flirt with that, considering the week that this draft is really like. Think about it. Like, the draft is weak. The top prospects, regardless of how weak it is, are all defensemen, which you really don't need. Like, they just don't. Even
But you feel like they could take one. If they take another one, then you're basically stockpiling defensemen, and at that point, you've got more leverage to go to teams that need defense to try to reacquire to get offense.
I mean, maybe, but like, again, if depending on where you're drafting, right? Like, so if you're in the top 5, well, and that's, I guess we're talking in hypotheticals. So if you're in the playoff hunt, you're probably not getting a top 10 pick. So consider that. And then on top of it, it's a weak draft. and half the players in the draft you haven't seen play because of COVID. So it's
Right.
literally a crapshoot. So if somebody comes to me and goes, "Hey, we have a 60 or 70 point player here. We need to create cap space, or we're just looking to rebuild or do whatever. Do you want him? Will you give us a first round pick plus one of your defensive prospects for him this year if we're in the playoff hunt?" I might do that, depending on who it is. And like I said, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad you raised that because I honestly haven't even really thought about that if they were in playoff contention, because I just assume that they won't be. But
Right. And I don't think, the odds are stacked heavily against us that we will be. But like I said, we've played well to this point. I mean, granted, yeah, like I said, we're 11 games in. We've got 45 games left. But if Lincoln keeps playing the way he's playing, and if we match up with these teams the way we're playing, and we're getting points, we've gotten points now, I think, in 9 of our last 11 games since starting, or not 9 of our was it 9 of 11? I can't remember. Well, since starting, I think 0-3.
yeah, we're 3-1-4.
3-1-4 since. So, we're getting points, and that's the key, is to just find a way to get points. And if we continue to do that, it's crazy how this playoff format works this year with the top 4 teams in each division making the postseason. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't expect us to be a top 4 team, but they may surprise us. So, a top 4 team in the division, I should say.
We're a point behind the Blue Jackets. We've played the same amount of games. Everybody else has basically played 7 games, and they've all got, the Hurricanes are top with 12. Panthers being 5-0-1 that's interesting. Would not have guessed that. I didn't think they were horrible, but I wouldn't have had them that good. I don't know, who have they played? Wings.
Yeah, they played us.
Yeah. Well, maybe that explains.
Yeah, that's like I said, down the road. I mean, I don't. When is the trade When is the trade deadline this year? Is it March?
Yeah, I think it's like March 24th.
Okay.
Potential trade deadline. April 12th. Jesus.
Oh wow.
That's way down the line. When's the season over?
Let's see. Oh, the season goes into May.
Okay.
It looks like the regular season concludes like around I think the beginning of May.
I mean, I guess. So we're 11 games in now. At the end of February, you're going to be about 30 in. Really? So that just seems insane. There must be some huge off days coming up then. Right? Because
I think a good season, at least the teams I'm looking at, I mean, us and a couple others go. The last game is May. The last game of the regular season is May 8th. So if the trade deadline is April 12th, you're looking at having your acquisitions for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, like the last 12 games, 10 to 12 games of the year.
Yeah, that I would think most trades would happen before that.
Yeah.
Especially with the way the divisions, like I think everything. See, that's what's weird too about this season. I think, and we're seeing it. Nobody's creating separation, and when you're playing everybody in your division 8 times, you're gonna get to know those teams really well.
Well, right. That's why, I think there's no clear runaway, I don't think, in really in any of the divisions, because the teams are going to get to know you. You're going to get to know them. You're going to know their weaknesses. They're going to know your weaknesses, the strengths, everything in between. So it's a matter of, yeah, I mean, I think all these games for the most part are going to be pretty competitive, but it's a matter of who's got the pieces to, you know, win the overtimes, win the shootouts, and grind a team of the team with lower talent into the ground.
Yeah, I don't know, but so our next game is
Thursday.
right. So are there any changes to the lineup that you want to see?
I mean, I would like to see maybe get Reese Johnson back in the lineup.
Yeah, I kind of think the same thing. I
But
think,
unless he goes to Rockford, I don't know. So
well, see, I don't know. See, that's what's so weird is they just called up Tepley. Like, why? I like in Lindholm. Like, if I would have thought because right, they just signed that Bowie kid who needs the one game to qualify for the expansion draft. So if you instead of calling up Lindholm, why wouldn't you just call him up and play him a game and then get it done and over with?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. See, some of these decisions are just
I mean, I think they're like confusing for management too. I mean, try to keep tabs on all this and who's here, who's there, and who are you bringing up here. It's crazy, but I maybe, like I said, we'll get more clarity once the AHL seasons.
do you send Delia to Rockford and try to call up Darling or Tompkins?
Yeah, I don't, yeah, it's like I don't know because you really at this point you've got your number one in Lankin, and that's not changing. It's just a matter of, I mean, are you gonna just rotate out Subban and, like you said, Darling, Tompkins, or Delia? I don't know what they're gonna do.
Well, I'm just thinking because they seem hell bent on having Subban in the lineup. So if that's going to be the case, and like Lankinen even said yesterday that he basically like skipped practice because they wanted to get Delia practice time. So if they view him as part of their organization going forward, I would think you would want to send him to Rockford where he could be the starter, and then whether it's Darling or Tompkins, you'd call one of them up to basically just sit in the stands. I guess maybe Darling, if they view Tompkins as having value, which I don't, but maybe they do. I don't know, but I think that's going to be something to see that's interesting too, because I don't think anybody, even myself, even as big of a Lankinen fan as I was, saw this coming. Like where he's probably the one of the favorites for the Calder Trophy right now, including the Vezina.
Yeah,
So
I don't. Yeah, I didn't expect it either. I mean, here I just thought all of Subban, Delia, Lankinen, they're all going to come in and have goals against averages over 3, and it's just a matter of who's kind of the lesser of the three evils. But I mean, I'm glad Lankinen's proven all of us wrong and really taken this by storm and keeping us in these games. So
yeah, so I don't know what they'll do there, but other than Johnson, I would take Highmore out and put Johnson in, and that's probably it. I'd probably keep Bodan in. Um, yeah, I think I'd keep the same lineup, although I might change the lines. I don't like Suter on that fourth line. I think that's a waste. I'd try to get him more ice time up in the lineup somewhere.
yeah.
Other than that, yeah. So like if you bring Johnson and put Johnson there, move Suter up.
Well, yeah, it'll be like I said. I'm sure tomorrow they'll announce some moves to get these guys, either guys that they want back in Rockford are probably going to head there tomorrow to start prepping for their game on Friday. So
Yeah. So with that, everybody, I think that's going to wrap up this Game review. Once again, the Blackhawks fell to the Carolina Hurricanes by a score of 4-3 in a shootout. They fell to a record of 3-4-4 on the season, but a impressive 3-1-4 in their last 8 games. So good things, trending upwards. A lot of positives to see. We will be back with you Thursday. Well, I guess Friday morning. We'll be recording Thursday evening to discuss the next game of the season, game 12, where the Hurricanes will be back at the United Center to take on our Chicago Blackhawks. Until then, everybody stay healthy, stay safe, and let's go Hawks.
Yep. Go Hawks, everybody. Thanks for listening.